What I'm about to tell you is something my grandfather heard from his father, my great-grandfather. A story from deep in the mountains of my hometown. And it begins with an old, unattended shrine, one dedicated to a cursed deity. The shrine had no priest, no rituals, and no worshippers. Only a cold, silent god believed to bring disaster when disrespected. Among the old stories about it, one stood above the rest. Back in the Sengoku era, the local lord had a reckless son. Drunk one night, he declared the curse a stupid superstition. He broke into the shrine, stole the sacred object, and out of sheer drunken arrogance, urinated on it. Nothing happened for a few years. Then the world began to break. Strange, inexplicable phenomena all across the region. Villagers disappearing without a trace. The Lord himself contracted a disease that swelled his face to twice its size. He survived, but lost his sight. 3 of his sons were wounded or sickened. The reckless son went mad, ran into the mountains, and never returned. The village collapsed as people fled one after another, terrified of the god's wrath. No documentation survived, only rumor, whispered warnings, and an abandoned village. Generations passed. By the time of the Meiji Restoration, the shrine still had no priest. Local elders cleaned it a few times a year, called a traveling priest for major rituals, and otherwise left the sacred object untouched. "Let sleeping gods lie," they said. No one must disturb it. And for centuries nothing happened. Until one night, a group of local young men were chatting, and someone brought up the old curse. One of them scoffed. "Japan opened its borders. We're a modern country now. These old superstitions are nonsense." A few agreed, most didn't. But eventually 10 boys agreed to sneak into the shrine at night and look at the sacred object themselves. A stupid test of courage. When they entered the old, dark hall, they found a small altar. Behind it sat a dusty paulownia box, tightly bound with cords. They hesitated. Something felt wrong. A strange tightness in their chests. But the loudest skeptic grabbed the box, cut the cords, and opened it. Inside were 3 magatama beautiful curved jewels. Nothing else. Relieved and emboldened, they put the box back, got drunk inside the shrine, and slept until morning. When the villagers found out, they were scolded severely. But since nothing happened afterward, the incident faded away. For a while. The nightmare began slowly. At first, wild boars, deer, and monkeys impaled on trees, strange cries at night, neither human nor animal, houses pelted with countless pebbles, dogs barking madly at empty sky. My great-grandfather himself saw dozens of black human silhouettes walking in a line at night. No one was harmed yet, but fear spread like infection. People whispered, "Is this because of what they did 3 years ago?" The village armed itself. Patrols were formed. Police from nearby towns came to help. Nothing worked. Then the deaths began. A villager found torn apart in the forest. A child vanished while playing. 4 men from the patrol vanished simultaneously. People waking in the night, screaming and running into the dark, never returning. A woman burst into her home, screaming something incoherent, then slashed her own throat with a kitchen knife. In a single month, the village fell apart. The elders gathered. One old man said, "There is another shrine over the mountain. They used to perform rituals on behalf of our shrine. Maybe they'll know something." With no other hope, they agreed. The landlord took several of the original 10 boys and went to the other shrine. The priest listened calmly at first, until they described the paulownia box. He interrupted sharply. "That's impossible," he explained. The true sacred object of the mountain shrine was a bronze mirror, kept in a flat box on the altar. The magatama in a paulownia box were not part of any documented ritual. The story from the Sengoku era involved the bronze mirror, not magatama. The priest had officiated there once in his youth and had never seen such a box. Even the landlord had assumed the boys opened the mirror box, not some unknown artifact hidden behind the altar. The priest's face grew pale. This is not the work of a cursed deity. This is something else, something older. He offered a theory. The mountain god might not have been worshipped, but used to seal away something else, something powerful, something predatory, something that absorbed the people it took. And the magatama were part of the seal. When the boys opened it, they unleashed it again. He agreed to research what he could and return in 2 days. 2 days later, before the priest arrived, the village constable ran into the landlord's house, breathless. "Sir, it's spreading to the next villages, even the military camp near the river. People disappearing, strange sightings, whatever it is, it's radiating out from here." Panic spread through the room. Then the priest arrived. Everyone went to the mountain shrine. The priest checked the magatama. He nodded grimly. "Yes, this is the seal. The power is gone, but the presence remains. It is still nearby," he explained. The creature was not killed, only weakened. It had existed since ancient times. It devoured people and absorbed their forms. The mountain god could barely suppress it. Without the magatama's seal, it was free again. The black human shapes were the absorbed villagers. The boys who opened the box were now marked. The creature might use them to interfere with the sealing ritual, so they had to be present but contained. The priest created a rope boundary, placing all 10 boys inside it, a living barrier. Then he began the ritual to call down the mountain god. At first, nothing. Then the stench of wet animals, heavy breathing outside, footsteps circling the shrine, scratching, laughter not human but almost human, chattering voices, like a dozen people whispering at once, something pounding the walls, something dragging across the roof, hour after hour, until morning. No one slept, no one spoke. The priest continued the ritual, unbroken. At dawn, he finally ended. When they opened the shrine doors, the outside world looked as though a hurricane had hit. Trees snapped and ripped out, hundreds of muddy footprints, human-sized and otherwise covering the ground, deep claw marks gouged into the shrine walls, animal corpses torn apart and scattered. The sealing had worked. For now, the priest warned them, the boys were still tainted. They needed purification, and if that failed, they must be taken to the grand shrine for a final exorcism. And then he left. My grandfather told me all this decades later, and then he said something that chilled me. 2 years ago, the shrine was robbed. All ceremonial tools, all sacred objects, including the Paulownia box with the magatama, were stolen. Next year marks the 3rd year since the theft. And the creature, whatever it is, attacks anything within dozens of kilometers of the magatama. My grandfather sighed. We don't know where the magatama are. And without that, there is nothing anyone can do.